Christ is risen.
Indeed he is risen.
Christos voskresil.
Voisin of voskres.
I am really very excited to be here in this holy place. And I dare say we all came here to this holy country, the apostolic see of Constantinople, not as scholars, just as pilgrims. And to this Khalfi, the high center of academy, of theology, of education, spiritual education, and spiritual stewardship. Very happy, and I think with a big love, Sayyidina Sebazmiyotate Apostolos, and we can say really what it is the keys for peace, or just the declaration of our faith. Christos Reski, Christ is in our midst. He is and he will be always. Al-Masih baynana ka'inun wa sayakun. And I would like to convey from here a very brotherly and warm greeting to our, let us say, Holiness Patriarch Bartholomew I. We'll be happy tomorrow, just wait in my delegation to visit with him in his residence in Panar, with high bishops of my church and the delegation of human rights priests and laymen and women, deputy minister and so on from Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Holland, and Egypt. Preparing this paper, liturgy, the foundation of Christian unity, I was preparing this last night in the evening, and I read through and through 17 pages. Do we have time for that? But preparing the last moment preparation for conference, I was full aware how this whole conference is related to Constantinople. Constantinople, Nicaea, Ephesus, Chalcedon, Chalkid, Constantinople, Nicaea, Nicaea, and so on. And the whole history. And as I said, from one hand, from Constantinople, you have the whole East, from the other hand, you have the whole West. And Constantinople being today small, but it is always great, and it will remain great. And we pray, as I said yesterday, we wish that the Turkish government, we thank for his welcome to us, to take in consideration the importance of the life of this holy see, apostolic see of Constantinople. We pray that we will also maybe write a letter, if you allow to do that, that they may open again Khalki.
Yes.
Eminence, dear Sebazmiyotate, Pateres, priests, nuns, men and women. Well, I start with something else. Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the mother of all churches. That sang St. John Damascenus, the monk of St. Sarah, in the 8th century. He says, "Rejoice, O Jerusalem, here Sion Agia Vitetur Sion Theocatiki Ilion, Sigare Dexo Protis, Abis in Amation, Beatis Anastasius." Rejoice, Jerusalem, first, mother of all churches, very praise to God, because you were the first to receive the remission of sins through resurrection. Jerusalem is the capital of our faith. She is the source of all liturgy, of all celebration, and the guarantor of integrity of our faith, and of the unity of the Christian church, and of her agreement connected with the Christian history and with the divine economy. Jerusalem is the guarantor of the unity of humanity. All people call Jerusalem Mother. Pope John Paul II said in his encyclical Mater, Palestine is a spiritual homeland of all Christians because she is the homeland of Jesus and Mary. I have experienced the spiritual, liturgical, and ecclesiastical riches of Jerusalem, and in Jerusalem where I have been able to participate in so many liturgical services of different rites, of different churches. I have observed and analyzed much, and I have been able to know how many common elements there are between the rites. Once again, the words of Blessed Pope John XXIII are true. That which unites us is more than that which separates us. I have lived an intense spiritual unity with all the churches and the head of churches in Jerusalem, especially through the liturgy. To live the liturgy of others, with others, is already a very intense movement toward unity. To appreciate the right of another, to taste and discover the affinities, the resemblances between the rites is deeply appreciated. The heart gains much through the liturgy. When science joins with the emotion in the heart, there the bonds are tightly washed. This is my experience of liturgy in Jerusalem. The liturgy is not only the basis of Christian unity, but the liturgy is itself one of its origins. In spite of the diversity of languages, traditions, expressions of the spiritual and literary genuineness of its liturgy or rite, because the object of the liturgy, its substance and content, is the mystery of Christ. As St. Paul says, in its breadth and length and height and depth, in all its dimensions and in all its aspects, all its epiphanies and transfigurations, in all its weights and horizons. This is what the fathers of the Church have so well expressed with the word economy of salvation. In this Christological, cosmic, and ecumenical sense, the liturgy is at the same time one and unifying, and the factor of unity. The liturgy is the fabric of unity in all its traits and colors. The liturgy is the most eloquent expression of the unity of the Church and the Christian people. This is the meaning of the Latin adage, lex orandi, lex credendi. Our fathers made the unity of the Word of God in the Old and the New Testament through the liturgy, the offices, and the hymns. This remark is very important today in the situation of hypersensibility on the subject of anti-Semitism, which one would like to discover in the New Testament and in works of the Father of the Church. The liturgy, especially the Oriental Church, makes this very important bridge between Old and New Testament in a very wonderful way. We can speak about anti-Semitism in the liturgy. The Greek biblical language is a striking example of the Christian unity, and especially the unity of Antioch. This is the goal of this study today. We, Greek Catholics, have a profound sense for the search for unity and the preservation of this unity, especially with our Greek Orthodox brothers and sisters. We have edited all our liturgical books according to a new method, this is one, and in spite of our liturgical and pastoral concerns, through the liturgy, our concern for unity with the Orthodox Church remains alive. We have pastoral concern, but also unity with the Orthodox Church. We preserve the Greek language. We do all to conserve through the liturgy the strongest bond of unity with our Orthodox brothers and sisters. Thus, in the official edition of the Divine Liturgy, we preserve wholly the Greek language side by side with the Arabic. In fact, we have the translation Arabic from the 11th century till today. We have a side Greek and a side Arabic. And as seminary with 11 years, we sung one choir Greek and one choir Arabic. Therefore, in spite of our communion with Rome, our fidelity to Orthodox liturgy, which is our own, is the expression of our fidelity to unity with our sister church, the Orthodox Church. In short, we have the concern for preserving the sense of the Orthodox liturgy, the ethos of the Orthodox liturgy. The effect is really excellent. We feel that there is an osmosis. Our liturgical reforms pass slowly into the Orthodox milieu, especially in Bahrain and other places. Once again, the liturgy unites us in the same way we keep an eye on all liturgical movement in Orthodox. This lecture presents a thesis of my liturgical, historical, ecumenical, in the actual sense of the word, ecclesiological, and above all, Antiochian vision. This lecture pours out of my spiritual, liturgical, and yet again, my ecumenical experience. I hope that this conference can be the foundation of a profound work for Antiochian unity and for the unity of Christians in the Middle East. And I think this will be the topic for one of the next meetings of Orientale. The Greek Antiochian liturgy, the Greek language. The Greek language was the world language, the ecumenical language in the old sense of ecumenic. The ecumenical language in the true sense, that is to say, the language of the inhabited world, civilized antiquity. The ancient civilized world is the Greek Hellenic world. Rome had triumphed over the Greeks, but she had adopted the language of the vanquished, and this is in spite of the fact of the world expansion of the Roman Empire, the Roman world, much later divided by Theodosius into the Eastern and Western empires. This is why, for that reason, I am still called today Rome. In Arabic, I am Rome, Melkite Catholic, and in the language of Europe, Greek Catholic. It is known that the Greek language was the liturgical language of the primitive church, the same in Rome, capital of the Roman world and of the Roman Empire, from where we get the term Roman Church. The Greek language remained the language of the Roman Catholic Church for 2 centuries. Little by little, it introduced the Latin language into Rome and its neighboring region, Latium. St. Polycarp of Izmir visited Rome in 156 and surely consecrated the liturgy with Pope Anicetus in the Greek language. It is noteworthy that the Greek language has remained in use in the Latin or Roman Rite, in the Kyrie eleison, Christi eleison, and Aigos of the Oath, and the reproaches of Good Friday. Moreover, there is an ancient and venerable tradition which imposed on the Roman pontiff a Roman ritual of the papal pontifical mass that the epistle and gospel are proclaimed in Latin and Greek. And I was deacon also at that time, and I read the epistle in Greek in a pontifical papal liturgy. The cycle of a Greek civilization. To illustrate my thesis, I would like to dwell a little on the theme which I call the cultural cycle of the Greek Mediterranean language. This is a world axis which profoundly marked human history in its civilization and its ancient and modern culture. It will always mark it in spite of the influence of globalization of our time. The cycle has its point of departure, Greece, with the Greeks. This Greek cycle embraces all the aspects of Hellenic culture and civilization, such philosophy, medicine, architecture, algebra, astronomy, theology, sociology, etc. The Greek language will submerge all the Mediterranean basin, from east to west, from north to south, and during the long centuries before and after the first Christian era. The celebrated site of Alexandria, constructed by Alexander the Great in 332 before Christ, is an eloquent witness. She became side by side with Athens, the capital of Hellenic and Roman culture. We recognize the importance of the Greek language in the famous translation of the Bible from Hebrew into Greek in the 3rd century before Christ, called the Septuagint. This was realized by 70 Jewish scholars, well-versed in Hebrew and Greek. This was necessary since the Jews' Hebrew dispersed in the centuries on the Mediterranean basin and in all the Roman Empire, up to Yemen and the Persian Gulf, and not known more Hebrew and spoke Greek. Thus, the Greek language becomes the language of culture, of eloquence, of rhetoric, of law, of philosophy, of history, science, of scholars, the language of city dwellers, while the inhabitants of the villages spoke a Semitic language, Aramean, Eastern or Western Syria. Jesus himself did not speak Greek. He preached the gospel in Aramean. Amongst the apostles, not one spoke the two languages, or Syriac or Greek. The gospel was written in Aramean and Greek. On the cross, the writing placed above the head of Jesus was in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. Thus, the Greek language was spoken throughout all the church, the kind that was studied and practiced by the greatest number of church fathers and the scholars and doctors in the primitive church up to the 7th century in all regions of the East. When the Roman Empire became Christian under Constantine, the church adopted the Greek language. The councils were held in Greek, and Greek became the language of theology, liturgy, and the rites. This also applies to the fathers of the church and to the scholars of antiquity. They are called the Greek and Syrian fathers, and lived in Asia Minor, in Turkey, or in Syria and Palestine. That is to say, the territories of the ancient dioceses of the east of Antioch. The profound knowledge of the Greek language permitted the Eastern scholars, similarly the fathers of the church after the Arab conquest, to be able to translate the Greek intellectual heritage into Arabic. This gigantesque work of translation had an extraordinary rise in the cities of Antioch, Damascus, and Baghdad. One can affirm without fear of exaggeration, the Arabic culture and civilization owes much, if not all, to Christianity and Christian writers, thanks to the Greek and Syriac language. One can say that in Islamic civilization there is a Christian stamp in the same way the Christian civilization in the East has an Islamic stamp. Let us return to the concept of a ring of or circle of Greek civilization which enriched the Mediterranean basin. Effectively, the Muslim Arabs who conquered Syria via Egypt and North Africa carried with them the Greek culture in the Arab language. Through Arab contacts with Europeans of the Middle Ages and through the Arabic language, the West discovered the Greek Hellenic culture and civilization. After that, the Latin culture of the Middle East, of the Middle Ages began to develop, which had resources in the Greek culture, in literature, philosophy, theology, and so on. I consider that this cultural circuit is one of the greatest and richest in human history. It is a cultural axis of Greek, pagan, Christian, Muslim, Arab, Eastern, Western, Middle Eastern Europe. After that, the circle widens throughout Europe, in the Slav world, and in the world itself through Cyril and Methodius. Today we have the feast in the Ukrainian church of Cyril and Methodius, and we also in the Milkite church we introduced this feast. The whole world is truly a tributary of the Greek culture and language. Now, the liturgical literary genres. The number of Eastern liturgies has always been for me an enigma. How many times have I posed a question, why all these Eastern rites when the faith is one, and have as its geographical starting point Jerusalem, capital of our faith? However, I know these rites closely and in depth because of my long stay in Jerusalem, as I say, as Petrical Vicar for 26 years. I discovered numerous and profound affinities between a great number of liturgical texts. I have also discovered that what distinguishes them are the language and other characteristics which I shall call cultural and which form a kind of literary genre, the genre littéraire. It is because of this that I like to apply to the liturgy the theory of literary genres, used and applied in the study of sacred scripture. Effectively, this rite expresses Christian dogma, which is one in substance spread across the literary, linguistic, and cultural genres, which we precisely call rites. I consider that the application of this literary genre theory to the liturgy is of a major importance for reconnecting the diverse rites of East and West and discovering that which unites and distinguishes them. One can apply in this regard the affirmation of the Blessed Pope John XXIII was, which unites us is more than what separates us. The same applies very well to the different rites and liturgies. They are differentiated in literary art, cultural genius, civilizing aspects, which are different from one rite to other. But on the other hand, they are in accord and harmony with the substantial aspects in number and in quality. This will help us in our study of the Antiochian liturgy and its numerous modes across history. Because the observing stranger believes that the liturgies and families are differently, but in fact they are all from the same source and are one in their substance and across their transfiguration or epiphanies. In order to demonstrate the unity of the Antiochian rite, we have a wonderful book of Father Ras, Jesuit, my professor in the Orientale Institute, in his book Introductio ad Liturgia Orientale. In his book, he established a synoptic table for different parts of Eastern sacraments and liturgies. This table demonstrates the major relationship between the rites, not to say their unity. This study corroborates my theory about the liturgical literary genres, because all our liturgies are cultural epiphanies with the same Christian dogma. They proceed directly or indirectly in one manner or another from one unique liturgical source, Jerusalem. All express the different manners, chants, melodies, poems, icons, symbols, ceremonies, rites, processions, gestures, liturgical instruments and ornaments. That which St. Paul said, the great mystery of faith, in which the fathers call the divine economy. This appears especially in the anaphora of the Divine Liturgy, which is the great prayer for the action of grace, and which is the central part of the Divine Liturgy of the Mass. One finds there very clear common elements, especially in the anamnesis and epiclesis. This is obvious in the different Eastern anaphora. They are so similar, not to say one, and share a basic content and central core founded in the Trinitarian economy of salvation. We will not speak of other common elements. The psalm, they are the same, but the choice and distribution of the psalm is also very important in all offices of the different Oriental liturgies. We must not forget the sense common to all the churches in the rites. In the same manner, the liturgical cycle, Easter, Feast of the Lord, and Jesus Mary, this said also without speaking of the sacrament, and so on. Jerusalem, the origin. All the rites are born and developed in the Middle East. They are Eastern local, Eastern born, made, and not imports. The East, starting from Jerusalem, is the point of departure for all the rites, even the Roman and the Latin rites. This was the famous theologian and hymn writer St. John of Damascus sung, as I said, "Rejoice, you Jerusalem." One knows very well that the Spanish pilgrim Egeria or Eteria and other Western pilgrims have transported to the West the prayers and customs, the processions and rites which they had experienced around the holy places. Mother of Church, especially Bethlehem and Jerusalem. Thus, Jerusalem is truly not only the mother of churches, but also the mother of all rites. We can justificably call all the rites hierosolymital, because the liturgy on the Mass and all prayers are the celebration of the mystery of Christ in Jerusalem in the Holy Land. It is interesting to raise the point that the majority of hymns are the work also of hymnographs of saints, holy monks from Syria in the 8th and 9th century. The majority of them were monks of the convent of St. Saba in Palestine, St. John of Damascus, Andrew of Crete, Cosma of Damascus, Joseph the hymnograph, Theophanos the hymnograph of Jordan, and Romanos the melodist of Homs, Emesa, and Deacon later in Cairo, in Beirut, Tyrus, and Baldea. Antioch, one church in 2 languages and later in 3 languages, Greek, Syriac, and Arabic. Antioch is the first inheritor of Jerusalem tradition. The geographical, historical, and theological, and national, ethnic, and linguistic structures of the church are the reason and cause of the diversity of these rites. From a misappreciation of this reality, there is born a feeling of confusion regarding the diversity of rites, and it is believed that the rites are different and treasured one from another. We lose the universal character of Antioch. It is through his universal character that we can discover the unity between the Antiochian rites and which comes from Antioch, and in the same way discover the unity of the Church of Antioch itself. Indeed, we, the Greek Catholics, the Greek Orthodox of Antioch, and of Jerusalem and Alexandria, are called by 2 names, Greeks in the West, and Rome or Roman in Arabic, and in Muslim Arabic world, in the Arabic literature. Thus we carry the double character of Roman and the Greek. Through our double name, we discover the history and civilization of the Middle East, which form part of the immense Roman Empire, Western and Eastern. That is to say, it includes Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, up to Arab Peninsula, Mesopotamia, Persia, where the Greek language and culture reign. We are indeed at the same time Greeks and Romans. In Antioch, one finds the Greek language and culture developed to its highest level. On the other hand, the Syriac and moreover the Aramean and Arabic language and civilization were splendidly and richly developed. Antioch is truly the homeland of pluralism in all its aspects. This is a single and unique fact in the history of cultures and civilizations. This harmonious diversity remains in place up to our time. Indeed, the Syrians remain Syrians or Syriacs, in spite of the fact that they use today Arabic in their liturgy. The same stands for the Maronites. In the same way, we, the Greeks, are called the Greeks in spite of the fact that we have translated all our liturgy and offices into Arabic since the 11th century. And while we pray in Arabic, we still use Greek. This means that the Syrian fathers were Antiochian Syrians in spite of the fact that they wrote in Greek and most likely did not understand even Syrian. In the same way, the Greek were Syrian and Antiochian in spite of the fact that they wrote in Greek and did not understand Syrian. Because the Greek language was common to all the cities while the rural population spoke Syriac or Aramean, but the inhabitants of the cities and villages came from the same ethnic blood and people. St. John Chrysostom, the Antiochian genius, before he became Archbishop of Constantinople, was Syrian Antiochian and did not know Syrian. He was the preacher in the Cathedral of Antioch. During the Great Feast, the faithful came from the town and villages, of which one group spoke Greek, the town, and the other spoke only Syrian. All belonged to the same diocese, to the same church. On the occasion of Great Feast, St. John had around him many hearers, and he cannot preach in Syriac, the language of the greater part of the faithful. That is to say, the two languages of Greek and Syriac were the languages of the faithful of the same diocese of the same church of Antioch. One can draw a first conclusion flow from this. We, called the Greeks and Syrians, that is to say the Greek Orthodox, Greek Catholics, the Syrian Orthodox, Syrian Catholic, and Maronite are all one people and the same, even if we belong to different tribes, we are one people and one church. We all know that St. John Chrysostom is the author of liturgy in general, and which he took with him to Constantinople, and is now celebrated in the Syrian, Aramean, Coptic rites, even very in the Armenian rites. The liturgy had gained several new elements in Constantinople: the proscomitic, the procession of the gifts, and the chant of Only Begotten Son. Otherwise, it is an Antiochian liturgy. I wish to mention a parallel fact to the experience of St. John Chrysostom, St. Cyril of Jerusalem, which is famous catechesis at the Church of the Holy Resurrection in order to prepare the candidates for baptism. Standing on the hill of Golgotha, on top of the stone of unction, where the catechumens had gathered, of whom one part spoke Greek and the other Syrian. However, St. Cyril only knew Greek, and he had recourse to a Syriac interpreter. All the catechumens were members of the one same church of Jerusalem. Much later, St. Cyril became Bishop of Jerusalem. We must not forget that the monks of St. Saba belonged to different countries and spoke different languages, but belonged to the same church and gathered together to celebrate the liturgy and the Greek language. This osmosis, which was effective in Antioch and Jerusalem, has also been effective in Constantinople. Eteria, the famous pilgrim, also said it was in these places one priest in the holy places which visited. It was one priest and maybe a bishop but he spoke only Greek. And it was a translator in Syriac. Imagine, all holy places were always interpreted like today in our modern time. The same Saint Jerome said, on the funeral of Saint Paula, her companion, the psalms were chanted in Greek, Latin and Syriac in Bethel. And we have a homily of Gregorios of Nyssa, where from the 1st century, where we have the rite in Greek and in Syriac. So, if we look at the Antiochian culture, we cannot exclude the languages Greek, Arabic, and Syriac. And we have an icon, I showed it to you yesterday, with two faces. From one face, the Odigitria, from the other face, the baptism of the Lord, and with two scriptures of the Jordan event of baptism in Arabic and in Syriac, and the names were written in Greek. This is also icon to prove that. One word about Byzance. Let us say one word about the subject of the term Byzantium, Byzantine liturgy or Greek liturgy. This town was named in relation to the founder Byzas in 658 before Christ. It was later called Constantinople, the name of Constantine the Great. In 313, at 11th of May, is by the consecration, and we have today the feast of the consecration of, according to the Gregorian calendar, of the foundation of Constantinople. In spite of this, the name Byzantium became more renowned than Constantinople, and it remained like this until Constantinople ceded its name to Istanbul. The term Byzantium became widely known in culture as literature, thought, and in the same way theology, and this under the influence of Byzantine laws. Remember that Byzantium was dependent of Antioch also. The term Byzantine applied to the liturgy appears much later. In all this we have a Greek common denominator. That the Greek language became a common denominator for the Eastern rites who all conserve Greek styles. I shall give you some examples of numerous common hymns between the Greek rite, the Syrian rite, the Coptic and the Armenian and Ethiopian rites. The 8 tones of the resurrection for the main part are the same in Greek, Coptic and Syrian. In the same, we have the prayers and hymns of little hours. After the Psalms, the little prayers are common in Greek, Arabic, and Syriac and Coptic. The same we have also the joyful light for Silaron in Greek, Coptic, Syrian, and Armenian the same. The hymn of bridegroom also in the Holy Week the same different rites. The hymn of Christmas and Easter the same different rites. And many chants of the Theotokos are in different rites. The anaphora of the liturgy of St. John Chrysostom and other prayers of that liturgy. For example, in Armenian liturgy we have 21 prayers, all the same in the Greek Byzantine liturgy. A word now about the Council of Chalcedon and the Antiochian rites. The Eastern rites diversified and were fixed around the 6th or 7th centuries, around the Council of Chalcedon. This council, where the theme of Christology occupied the place of honor, did not influence the liturgical rites. The text in which one finds traces of the Christological dispute did not appear until later. The main part of the liturgical text were composed before the council, when there was only one bishop and 2 languages in Antiochia, also in Alexandria. We must not forget that Severus of Antioch and Dioscorus of Alexandria and numerous others who are pillars of the Syrian and Coptic tradition wrote in Greek and lived before the time of Chalcedon. One wishes to say the same about the hymns which gently replaced the psalms and were composed between the 4th and 8th centuries. In this same way, the principal structure of the liturgical prayers and hours were being formed around the Council of Chalcedon, but were not influenced by the conciliar terminology of Christology. This is to say that the main part of these hymns were written in the one church, where there was still one bishop for the divisions between the patriarchates and the bishops into Chalcedonian, Greeks, Byzantine, Melkites, and non-Chalcedonian, Syrian, and Orthodox. All these elements, a single bishop, the hymns, the hymnographs, are very important for demonstrating that the Antiochian rite in the two languages, Greek and Syriac, were formed and constituted before the Council of Chalcedon or a little bit later. And in all cases before the foundation of the Syriac non-Chalcedonian jurisdiction under Jacob Paradis. This is a proof of the unity of the Antiochian rite in the two languages, in the two traditions. This is to say that the Syriac rite is Antiochian and the Greek rite is also Antiochian. It is the same rite in two languages. The Melkite rite is Antiochian and is the origin of the rite now called Byzantine. This is to say that our rite, like that of the other Greeks and the Syrians, is the unique rite of a sole church which had two liturgical languages going back to the single origin. It is the Council of Chalcedon which has separated us and not our rite. We have all one sole Antiochian rite in two languages. The influence between Antioch and Constantinople. We can affirm with scientific certitude that the rite called Constantinopolitan has been all able to develop because and after the Council of Chalcedon, and that this is where the Greek rite has acquired several elements from Constantinople. But to tell the truth, these are secondary elements and of lesser importance: procession, ritual movements, directives of the Typicon. This element developed much later between the 13th and 16th centuries. The influence became marked after the Crusades, which, as we say in Arab and Muslim literature, are called Frankish War, Harb al-Faranja, and not Crusades. And again, because of the aggrandizing influence of the Patriarch of Constantinople under the Ottomans, we have the influence of Constantinople in the Eastern rites. On the other hand, one should not forget that everywhere in all the churches and rites, there were different local traditions. And so the Syrians conserved 72 anaphoras. It is possible that under the influence of Constantinople, a good number of these anaphoras disappeared. The Antiochian Typicon and that of Jerusalem was also partly influenced by Constantinople. Thus we read, according to the Typicon of Constantinople, or that of St. Saba, and not of Antioch, we see regency between the Antiochian and the Greek Byzantine. This also proves that the original rite is Jerusalem, Antioch. It is interesting to note that the text of the Greek rite, Byzantine, of the Greek Orthodox and the Melkite Greek Catholics, written in Greek, were translated entirely in Syria after the Byzantine reconquest of Syria in the 10th century. It was Syriac that was in vogue. Greek diminished and Arabic was not yet in liturgical use. What a praiseworthy and admirable effort of the part of our ancestors. Much later, at the end of the 11th century, our fathers started the enterprise to translate everything in Arabic. So we have three languages, Greek, and then Syriac, and then Arabic. So the Greek Antiochian rite was not imported from outside.
That is the core of my thesis. There is a widespread theory that affirms the Melkite Orthodox and Catholic Church abandoned its Antiochian rite to adopt the Byzantine or Constantinopolitan rite in the 12th or 13th century. This theory was adopted by the celebrated Metropolitan Neophytes Idilbi of Aleppo in his famous liturgical in Arabic, French, and German. The same theory was being presented and defended by our friend here present, Father Robert Taft, in his book about the Byzantine Rite, Historical Presentation, in English. Our Greek and Greek Catholic Rite is an Antiochian rite in the Greek language. The Syrian Rite and the Maronite is also the same Antiochian rite in the Syriac language. The Antiochian rite in the Greek language immigrated with St. John Chrysostom to Constantinople and much later to Eastern Europe, the Slavic tradition. At Constantinople, it acquired several new elements, as I said. One must note that the division of the rites into Constantinopolitan, as we say sometime today, Antiochian, Alexandrian, is of rather recent use, and especially in the 20th century. The traditional usage is Greek rite, Syriac rite, Coptic rite, Slavic rite in reference to the liturgical language of the rite and not in reference to the geography of or locality of the rite. Lastly, January 2003, this year, I was visiting His Beatitude Pedros, the Celeste of Alexandria. He assured me that he never employed the term Byzantine rite, but only the term Greek rite. In spite of the great esteem I have to Father Robert Taft, I must say that his theory is refuted by the same profound analysis which he made in his work earlier cited. Thus, he demonstrates clearly that the origin of the rite called Byzantine or Constantinopolitan is the Greek rite. This is what the Slav ambassadors discovered when they came to Constantinople. Father Taft strongly demonstrates historical evidence from all stages of so-called Byzantine rite closely bound up with the tradition of Jerusalem and Antioch, also called Sabaite, from Sansara. Effectively, the Byzantine rite has developed under the influence of the Antiochian tradition. The rite of Constantinople proceeded from Antioch. We find the Greek rite in the famous Barberini manuscript, which was put together halfway through the 18th century and which is of Antiochian and Syrian origin. Moreover, all the subsequent editions in Greek are founded on this manuscript of Barberini. These proofs presented by Father Taft contradict his own theory. Taft also speaks of the reform done by the monks of Studium, the monastery founded halfway through the 5th century by their founder Theodorus of Studi. He stated that this reform has its origin in the influence of the tradition of St. Saba and that of Antioch. Effectively, St. Theodore Studi sent for the monks of St. Saba to help to realize this reform. Many of the prayers and hymns of this monastery and in the capital were written with several variants according to the tradition of St. Saba. Patriarch Methodius of Constantinople in the 9th century came from southern Italy and was of Syrian or Greek Melkite origin. It was he who developed the prayers of the Eulogitaria in the Ecologion. At the beginning of the 2nd millennium, the book of the Typicon appeared, and in it one reads prayers according to the tradition of the monastery of St. Saba, which were in use in the Christian East in Antioch. These books clearly carry the imprints of St. Saba, traces of Jerusalem, of Antiochia and Constantinople. One may say the same thing about the Typicon of Berg Athos Montatus. In the 12th century, a profound osmosis was realized between Constantinople and the East, and the Greek rite took on a more Byzantine and cathedral-like color, where the chant plays a greater role. Much later, he says, Father Taft, in the 12th century, the influence of the Sabaeid tradition of St. Saba was augmented and introduced in the studied monasteries of Constantinople. This is perhaps considered the last determining element in the formation of the Byzantine rite of today. At the same time, Father Taft affirms that the monks carried out the offices of the Church of the Resurrection of Jerusalem, destroyed in 1009 by Khalif al-Hakim. We find an interesting description of this osmosis between Jerusalem, Constantinople, the monastery of St. Saba, and the Studite monasteries in an important liturgical document. This is the Tacticon of the monk Nikon of Black Mountain. In this document, one sees clearly the influence of Jerusalem on Constantinople and the Studite monasteries, and on the Byzantine tradition in the south of Italy, where we still have two eparchies of the Italo-Greeks. This document, produced in the Tacticon, refers to the Typicon of the Great Church, that is to say, Constantinople, called the Great Church, or more precisely, the Church of Hagia Sophia. In the same way, these documents refer to Mount Athos, to the Studion, to the Typicon of St. Saba, which relates to the tradition of the monastery of St. Saba and the Church of the Resurrection, and the monasteries of Palestine. There is no mention of the term Byzantine in any of these documents. In spite of this, Father Taft applies the name Byzantine to all stages of development of the Greek liturgy and the influence between Antioch and Constantinople. So, we do not find any trace of this attribute in any of the documents already cited by Taft. This would confirm my theory that the influence of this attribute is modern, and we owe it to Western authors, the Byzantinologues or Byzantinophiles. We wonder and ask this question to the Byzantinologue: what is the Byzantine rite? Would it be more adequate and scientific to speak of a Constantinopolitan rite? What is the Middle East? What is the Melkite rite abandoned by the Melkites in order to adopt the Byzantine rite? What are the specific traditions of each one of the two rites? What are the proper names of these two rites, if they are really two rites? On the contrary, we find that our theory is the one that gives the true answer. Originally, it was the rite of Jerusalem, which developed specifically in Antioch, or of Syria, and in Egypt. It was celebrated in the Greek language in the cities and at Constantinople also. Much later, using different languages, it spread throughout the Slav countries and those of Eastern Europe and Southern Africa. Because of the influence of the imperial city and due to the several different factors, much later, secondary Constantinopolitan elements enter into the already well-organized and established Greek rite. The expression Antiochian rite, Byzantine rite, are very, very late. This is because the word rite relates, as I say, to linguine and not to country. Following this, the resumption of communion with Rome in 1724, our Melkite Church continued to call itself Greek, practicing rite. Our Patriarch, so Arab, is called Greek. Our Synod speaks of Greek traditions and Greek canons and of Greek theology. Our correspondence with Rome and other places use the term Greek up to date. At the entrance of our Patriarchate in Alexandria, one reads, Catholicos Linicol Patriarchion. The rubrics called after the Great Church and systematized by the Patriarch Philotheos of Constantinople in the 14th century never mentioned the attribution Byzantine. How can one say that these rubrics are the composite of the Byzantine Rite, which would have replaced the Antiochian Melkite Rite, and would have been abandoned by our ancestors to embrace this so-called Byzantine Rite? Furthermore, the influence of Constantinople grows only when this city was called Istanbul and under the shadow of the Ottoman Empire, thanks to the caliphs and not to the Byzantine Empire. This was to maintain the identity of the Orthodox Church and the spirit of Byzantium after Byzantium. There appeared in the 16th century printed editions of the Greek Rite. They followed the order of the Constantinopolitan tradition of St. Saba, known from that time as the typical of the Great Church. Once again, it is the Patriarch of Antioch, Macarius III, Zaim, in the 17th century who introduced the usage of the stipikon in Russia, making a uniform liturgical practice in the Orthodox world. Maybe this whole thing is a field for research into the historical, ecclesial, liturgical, and ecumenical matters. Such a research would help us overcome our differences, not to say our disputes. Such a research would be able to receive the spirit of harmony, to revive the spirit of harmony, concord between the faithful, and extinguish the spirit of fanaticism, which is at the origins of difference between the rites. This will be a beneficial influence in pastoral work, especially among the young. It is our mission to demonstrate our common origin, complementary and osmosis between the rites, to help collaboration between our eparchies, our parishes in the Arab countries and in the countries of immigration. I am convinced that such a research will give much help towards deepening Christian unity even among the Eastern Catholics. Once again, the adage remains through lex orandi, lex credendi. I am sure that the work of academic liturgical research is a very important factor for contributing positively toward the unity of the Patriarchate of Antioch, which has 5 title holders: Greek Orthodox and Greek Catholic, Syrian Orthodox, Syrian Catholic, and Maronite. The work of unity in the Patriarchate of Antioch may seem utopian, but it is very important for the Christian presence in the Middle East and in the countries of immigration, and for liturgical research. Once again, the liturgy can be and must be a fundament element for the unity of Christians. Thank you.
Just a minute before we break, I'd like to start our presentations. Those of you that have been to the Orientale and Lumen conferences in Washington know that we offer as a token of our thanks to our speakers a small gift. And this being a somewhat unique and special occasion for this particular conference, we've prepared for the bishops and then also for the fathers special gifts for their presence and their preparation and your beatitude. Thanks for your presence. We would like to present to you this gift. For those of you in the back who can't see it, it's an icon, the icon of the conference of Peter and Andrew embracing that was given by Patriarch Gregorios to Pope Paul VI. We have made it into an engulfian for the bishops to receive who were speakers, and on the back side there will be an engraving of each of their names and the name of the conference. So here we have to thank you very much for your participation.